Hit the record button. Hi, this is Gloria, the pink-haired lady from Indianapolis, and I have another investor in Meet the Investor series. Today I have Jeremy Kister with me on my Zoom call. Jeremy is a local investor here, and I was just talking to him the other day, and he's got some really good real estate strategies and some different things that he's been doing that I know a lot of you new investors have not even thought about yet. So I just wanted to interview him today and just let you guys get to know Jeremy. So welcome, Jeremy.
Well, welcome everyone, and thanks, Gloria. It's really a pleasure actually to be here and talking to you. I'm actually excited to share some of the things I've learned through the past couple of years I've been involved in real estate. So if you want me to, I can give a little introduction of myself and again, how I came from my W2 job to my real estate kind of passion now, and if we can go from there, if that's okay with you.
Yes, yeah, go ahead, tell us a little bit about you and then kind of how you got started.
All right, so I guess you can hear my accent. I'm originally from France actually. I'm from a super small village, 400 people actually. It's super small. Everybody know each other. Maybe a third of it is partly related to me somehow actually. It's an interesting place to start, but I've never been coming across real estate whatsoever. So I just want to put that out because I've never been again in contact to real estate before. So my job is based on science. My background is chemistry. I have a PhD in organic chemistry that I obtained in France. In Strasbourg, University of Strasbourg. It's actually pretty good university in Europe and in the world. And after that, actually, I moved to the US. And basically, I'm looking at my notes because I don't remember exactly the dates. But yes, in 2008, actually, I moved to the US in Florida, more specifically at the Scripps Research Institute. I did my postdoctoral research over there for 2.5 years. And at that point, my wife was pregnant. So I had to find a job, and I said, okay, let's try first here in the US if I can, and if I cannot, we'll go back in France. So the first interview I got was actually in Indianapolis in a company called Dow AgroSciences previously, and now they became Corteva. So I got my first interview, I got the job, I moved to Indianapolis. And actually, I like Indianapolis to raise a family. It's a pretty good place, actually.
So was that 2011, 2012?
2010 actually was
okay.
At the low of the. I was lucky because it was at the low of the market, so we could purchase a house at a fairly good price, actually. So that was a good thing. So that was pretty much my first real estate experience, is purchasing a house for our family, but that was it. And I guess I was lucky with 2010.
So you beat me here by a couple years. I got here in 2012. So
okay. Yeah. So after that, basically, I work again. I'm doing research we are trying to develop new herbicide to help farmers. Actually, we are trying to find sustainable solution, less toxic, more environmental friendly solution. Basically, we are helping farmers to feed the world. It's a very nice and fulfilling job. But to be honest, after 10 years, I was watching my 401k going so slowly up. I say, okay, it will take forever to reach my objective of retirement, right? And so that's where I started to start thinking about other avenue to have a secondary income. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I look around and I came across a guy at work which was doing house hacking. So he told me about what he did. He purchased this fourplex, lived in one of the apartments and rented the 3 other. I thought it was a great idea. So that was my first really contact with real estate investment. And then after that, it started to go into listening to Bigger Pocket podcast. That was great. And then I came across this book right there, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And after that, this stuff blew my mind. To be honest, I mean, after that, you could not stop me about thinking about real estate. I was so excited. I said, okay, that's the way to go. And that's basically when I started to be so excited. And that basically was at the end of 2019. So 2019, beginning of 2020, as you recall, the COVID hit. I said, it doesn't matter. Now I'm all in. I'm going to go for it. So that's basically what happened with my first investment. And the first investment was done in April of 2020. And that was a single family 4-2 rental. So I purchased it. I purchased it from a wholesaler that I made some connection. So you will see throughout what I'm talking about. It's all about networking.
Yeah.
This is a people business. It's really important to meet people, because you always have to think about the fact that you don't know what you don't know, right? So always be able to be humble, not assume anything. And so that was my first one. Again, I purchased the property. I use the property management to do the rehab actually on this one. And I was trying to do the BRRRR strategy. Many people know that. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So that was my strategy because of all the things I've heard with bigger pocket, basically.
Yeah.
So on this one, I started to learn that you have to trust but verify. So I was trusting people a little bit too much. I was like, just say, oh, those guys are experts, so they must know what they are talking about. So it's not always the case. They don't have always the same incentives than you, you know. So you have to trust but verify. For instance, I give you some example. I didn't do an inspection on the property. And then after we find out that the roof had to be replaced, there was some water leak in the bathroom, and so that we have to replace all that. So long story short, the rehab estimate, which was the real rehab, was double the rehab estimate.
So the advice there is not only send your contractors in there, send a licensed inspector in there as well. That $300 could save you a lot in the long run.
You're exactly correct. I mean, and I would even advise to do for another $150 the scope of the sewer line.
Yep.
That's something that can bite you back later. So
yep.
I'm thinking. Go ahead.
A lot of Indianapolis is so old that all of the sewer is the old clay type pipe that's very porous, and roots get in there and it collapses it. So yes, I actually used to work in a sewage treatment plant. That could be as much as $14,000. So very, very good advice.
Yeah, that's right. So $150 versus $10,000 plus surprise. It's easy to do the math right there. Yes. So basically, but I learned a lot to that. And again, because I have a W-2 job, I didn't want to go into the property management work, you know. So that's why I directly started with the mindset of, I'm going to use a property management company so I can scale up, because I knew that it would be hard for me to do that alongside with my W-2 job. So that's the main learning here. And overall, now the property is doing fine. I have a tenant that is doing fine. So even so, all the hiccups end up being fine. And again, you have to almost pay for the learning. It's like you pay for going to school. Here you have to pay a little bit for the real estate school, so to speak. So
do you know your numbers on that? What you purchased it for, what your construction was, and what you're renting it for now?
So I purchased it at 98,000. I initially wanted to put only 16,000, but I put like again 30 plus 35,000, I believe. And then now the ARV is 145. So it was not a good BRRRR because I couldn't get all my money back after the refi. But now it's producing 1,350 per month, and it's cash flowing fine. So after all expenses, are around $200 plus, and that's typically what I'm looking for. Everything that I can get after, again, maintenance, capex, vacancy, reserve. I'm looking for property that would cash flow at least $100 per month or plus.
Okay, so good rule of thumb.
Yeah, this one was fitting the bill. So yeah, so that was the first one. So at that point, I was again, as I mentioned, I was networking. I came across a GC called Sean on Bigger Pocket. And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm doing some flips and in Indianapolis." And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm very interested in flipping as well." So in September of 2020, I invested with him and his partner Kate, that they were actually doing flips, and they were looking for people that can invest with them as a money partner. So that's my first thing. I said, okay, that's not a bad idea to do that, because I don't need to do myself everything, but I can get the experience while going through the project with them. So I thought that's a good way to do. And so I did two deal with them. The first one in Broadway Street, Meridian Kessler area, a very big one. It's fortunately, I didn't do that on my own. It was huge. It's a full gut rehab with an addition, a garage, and on top of the garage, added some rooms over there. The master bedroom was on top of the garage. So very big rehab. And what I've learned that you have to be able to deal with all sorts of issues. I was meeting him, Sean, at the site. I remember middle of the winter, it was snowing. We find a cistern underneath the house. So basically, it's a big a container for water. But then, because it was there, it could not support the weight of the garage plus the additional stuff. So we are like, wow, what to do? We had to bring structural engineer, redo the footings, and it was raining so much, there was flooding everything. The inspector was trying to come, they couldn't. So long story short, it was crazy. And Sean was having a sciatic nerve problem, so he couldn't even walk.
Oh.
It was insane. And I said, okay, fortunately, I was not on my own on this one. Or the one, I would never have been able to finish that.
So did you pull out the cistern, or did you just build the garage on top of it? You actually had to pull it out,
then we had
redo the footers.
Yeah, and put some fill it up with some material for it not to collapse under the weight. It was insane. I mean, honestly, and that's what I've learned when you deal with those old house. I think 1890 was this house. So when you deal with those old houses, there's always surprises. I mean, it's always going to happen.
Yeah, for all of you, the Meridian Kessler area is kind of the oldest section of Indianapolis, but it was like where it was first established, where like the governor's mansion and that sort of thing was. So yes, the properties in those areas are right about the $1 million mark for Indianapolis. That's pretty high.
Yeah, it's pretty high. So this one we just finished not too long ago, and we were able to sell it for $760 roughly. It was, but it took 10 to 11 months to complete the project. It was a huge project, but again, I mean, for me personally, it was a great learning, because I could see behind the curtain with Sean, and I did another one with him and Kate on Kenwood Avenue, not too far away from this one, Butler Tartington. And again, as I mentioned to you last time, it's like this one, I found this deal. I found this on a wholesaler, and what poked my interest, so to speak, is that he was located next to two huge houses that were really nice, and say, okay, those are nice comps. And then Sean told me about a strategy where you can basically double the square foot of the house by just adding a second floor. So I said, that's a very good strategy, because most of the time, especially right now, it's so difficult to find a deal. So how do you add value to a property? One of the best ways to add square footage, right? So if you're in an area with a good comps, and you can actually do this strategy where you add another floor, then that's a very good strategy. Again, you have to be able to work with the people that have this experience. It's a little bit easier.
So basically, if you add value, like we a lot of times talk on a small scale where we're just going to rehab the kitchen or we're going to do paint and flooring, Jeremy's thinking a lot bigger. So what he's doing is he's actually taking these little houses, doubling the square footage by adding another floor on top, obviously working with new builders, the people that know what they're doing, the structural engineers, but he's gaining value that much faster by thinking outside of the box.
And again, I'm not on my own. That's a key here as well. I'm leveraging people's experience. I'm always thinking about how, as a team, you can achieve more than on your own, and people have more experience than you and different skills. So why not coming together as a team and achieve more? So the way we look at it, again, I found the deal. Fortunately, he has the experience. It was a good match, right? So I would never even have thought about that without talking to him, right? So that's I would really encourage people to not necessarily think about doing everything themselves.
Are you finished with the Kenwood project?
It's still going on. It's
Okay.
a huge, it's a beast. It's so big. I mean, it's bigger than I was thinking. It's going to be a great house, to be honest. I'll send you a picture of this house when I'm done.
Okay, good.
So then, but that being said, at that point, I still felt that I had to get my hand dirty, so to speak. You know, when you rely always on somebody, you don't go through the experience personally. It's not the same. It's not the same because you don't, psychologically, it's not the same. You know that you can rely on someone. So at that point, I said, I need to go through a flip on my own and really get to the experience. So at that point, it was basically, let's see, October. So 1 month later, I found a deal in Kokomo. For me, it was so, I found it so difficult. So it was so competitive in Indianapolis. I said, well, why not going to a secondary market? There are still opportunities there, and there's a little bit less competition. So especially because lots of people from out of state, they do not necessarily know the outside of Indianapolis. So I said, okay, this is an advantage for me being local. Let's look at those secondary market. And again, Kokomo was one of them. So I found
Kokomo is about an hour and a half north of Indianapolis. And it's kind of a little bit of a small town, but I mean, they've got some different manufacturing and different things like that support the economy up there.
Yes, exactly. For me, because I live north of Indianapolis, was more like 45 minutes. So
okay.
it was not too bad, but man, I drove quite a bit. I don't want to do this road anymore because I did it so many times. So the truth is that, okay, I find this house and I learned so much. I mean, I can just tell you, almost everybody should go through at least once on their own if they are serious, because then you appreciate the work of other people more, the work of contractors, the work of all the people involved. You respect them a little bit more because of what they are doing. So in this one, I selected basically all the finishes, how we're going to do the layout, everything. I mean, I went literally with the contractor to Menard and Lowe's, picking everything with them. So we started the project. It was going great. With but the first mistake I kind of made is I said, the wholesaler I got the deal with, he said, okay, I can be your GC as well. So I said, okay, let's do that, you know. So he knew people in this area, so they started to do things. The beginning was working well. It was demo, and starting the big stuff. But once we reached the point where we had to do finishes, so nice bathroom or make the kitchen nice, I found out that they didn't necessarily have the skill to do that. So that's when I was lucky. You know, everything happens like kind of for a reason almost.
Right.
Because on my rentals, I one day I went to my rental and I found out that somebody was doing some work. So basically, the contractors, the GC that were contracted by my property management company, they were there. I didn't know about that, but I started to discuss with them, and they say, "Oh yeah, we do lots of work." Zach and Melissa, those are actually a couple. And I say, okay, what about working with me on a potentially on a flip? And fortunately, I kept their card because at that point I called them and they came and they did a great job to do the nice finishes on the kitchen, 3 bathroom completely redone. I mean, that's another mistake. Do not underestimate the size of the house. I purchased for my first flip was a 5-bedroom, 3 bathroom.
Wow.
3,300 square feet. I was like, I didn't even understand what I was getting into.
You don't start small at all, do you? You just go for the big ones.
But that was kind of a mistake that I realized that everything you have to multiply by the square feet, right? Every time you buy floor, and this house you had to do all the things, all the floor, all the paint, every single room had to. It's not a full gut, but it was super heavy lifts still for me as a first time flipper, right? So, but and I have to give them lots of credit because they stick with me, and and that's why I'm talking about it, the people business, right? You meet people when they basically stick with you on the hard time. You are very much appreciative of that, and then I mean that creates a partnership that will last for a long time. Now, each time I have lots of trust in them, and we like to work together. So that's why I'm talking about. Sometimes it's more even important. Like you read a lot of things about contract. You know, contract with your GC. Make sure that you have a very good contract. Yes and no. For me personally, my handshake and my trust with the person is more important than the contract, because the contract means that you don't trust them, right? So once you really establish this very deep trust, I feel like it's more important than any contract. So that's the way I look at it. And again, not everybody is comfortable like doing that, but I go with my feelings on this type of thing. So that's after 7 months of lots of nights where I didn't sleep, to be honest. I still went to the end and we closed, and I said, okay, even if I don't make any money, it's still going to be a super learning experience. And I finally made roughly $30,000 on this one for my first fleet. I said, I remember when I signed the document on the closing, I went in my car and I just screamed like all the 7 months, you know, came out at once.
Yeah.
But I have to say it was a great experience.
Good. So a couple of things I'm hearing from you is you're very much learning based. So you did your book learning, but then you went to the School of Real Estate and you're learning as you go, you know. And then number two, you're building your team. So, you know, and sometimes your team lets you down and you've got to expand your team. And then third of all, I like what you said, that this is a people-based business. You know, you get your contractors and they're loyal to you and they're gonna do their best work for you. And that's the way to do it, is to build those relationships. So I think you've just accomplished a lot in this short amount of time since you got started, just over a little over a year and a half, and you've accomplished a lot. So I think you're going to encourage all of us to think a little bit bigger and maybe tackle some of those bigger projects that we've been afraid of.
Yeah, I think that's where you grow, right? I mean, I'll be honest, I had to push myself outside my comfort zone a lot. I mean, honestly, I'm, again, with my background of science, I'm super analytical, you know, trying to anticipate all the problems that potentially could happen. Unfortunately, you cannot do that with real estate. You have to take the problem when they come and try to solve them, because you can never anticipate everything that's going to happen, right? So once I change this mindset to, okay, I'm going to figure it out, that little sentence right there, I'm going to figure it out, change everything, because it was lifting a weight out of me, right? It's like before completely stressed, and then, okay, I'll figure it out. I already made some progress, so I'll be okay, right? So after that, again, in February, I purchased my second rental, and that time I used MLS. Actually, lots of people say there's no deal on MLS. There's still some deal on MLS. Really to find them, right? But you have to work a little bit harder with them. You have to, I mean, the strategy I was using on this one, I was telling you, is that you buy it, and then you do your inspection. You leverage your inspection result to basically say, okay, wait a minute here. There's some problem with the house. You're going to have to work with me to make the number work. So I typically I ask for reduction based on the GC quote I receive. I'm not just saying.
You're not just throwing numbers out. You get that scope of work and you have the numbers there to prove it to them of, this is what it's going to take to get this house rent ready. Do you want to work with me, or do you want to have to go back and try to sell it again? So no, that's great negotiation strategy.
So that's what I use for the two. The last one, I purchased my third one in July, and that's where I'm at for the rentals. And that was my ultimate long goal, is to have cash flow. That's really what I'm looking at, is cash flow. Flips, I do them just because I'm trying to have capital that I can invest in long-term rentals. But I'll be honest with you, I'll be honest with you, Gloria. It has been slow with those rentals, the small single family houses. I feel like it's a little bit slow, and that's where I went to the next level now, trying to go into multi-family.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm focusing my effort right now. In June, I mean, I cannot go through all the process, mental process, but basically lead me to enroll in a program with it's called the Warrior Program with Rod Cliff. If anybody is interested, Rod Cliff is a great, I would say, mentor. His podcast is excellent. He will teach you a lot, and the importance of going to this type of a group is that you come across people that are already doing much more than you are doing, right? So they are at the next level. Like this group encompass roughly 500 person, and they own together more than 45,000 doors, if that makes sense.
Wow.
So this is another level, right? But you have to go to this type of person, because for them, he always say, I want to be with people that think what I'm thinking is hard, they think it's easy. And that's exactly right, because that's how they pull you up, right? So now I invested in one. I did the same strategy that I did for the flips. I say, okay, I'm going to invest in a syndication. Syndication is where basically people put their money of investor together and they buy a big apartment complex. This one was 166 units in Florida, in Sarasota. So basically you invest your money, and your money brings a return. But you can learn through the process how the syndication is working, and that is what I wanted to do. So I'm looking also at property around here to work, but this is even more important to have a team, because tackling those big projects, you need a team. It's literally somebody that finds the deals, then somebody that will run the number, somebody that will raise the money, and somebody that will potentially do the asset management. So this team work is really, really even more important, because making a mistake on a multi-family deal with multiple $1 million involved, that's a costly mistake.
Right. Yeah.
So that is really what my next step is, that basically going to multi-family and trying to get the flipping business in a more of a cadence of 10 or plus pips per year.
Wow.
That's where I'm right now.
Well, I was going to ask you what your number one advice is for new investors, but you keep saying the theme over and over, the same theme of build a team. So is that what your advice is for new investors?
That is one of them. Again, I would say the sentence I like is like, always come with an empty cup. Be open to learn, don't come with your preconceived ideas, because you don't know what you don't know. So be open to learn. And that leads me to the next advice is read. Again, I showed you, I have a lot of books here I want to show you, because I think mindset is the most important. Think about it. If you're an athlete, a high-level athlete, if you don't believe that you can win, you will never win. And here is the exact same thing. If you don't believe that you can do it, you will never be able to do it. So the first thing I worked on myself is that, again, believe that you can do it. And this is sounds very simplistic, but it's so hard, because you are fighting against your own mindset, that the fear, there's so much fear when you go in real estate. It's like the fear is always saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And but when you don't fight the fear, you never grow. So that will be my main. And the more you read, the more you get a little confidence, because you learn more things. When you go into a new field and you have no idea of what you are doing, that is very scary. But then when you start to learn through the process, you get more confident, and by building your confidence, you get more eager to do more, right? It's like the compound interest of confidence. So it is really important. And I'd like to share some book, if you don't mind.
Sure. No, go ahead. Yeah.
So the first one, as I said, I will show it again, because that's a mindset shift. This book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, is not very going into the details. You don't need to, but you just say, it just open your mind. You say one of the best sentences is that you cannot do something. How can I do it? You know, you don't put the ceiling, because we tend to put the ceiling right away. So we say it's the same thing like shoot for the star, because even if you land on the moon, you still achieve something big. It's the same mindset of going above and beyond what you think you can do. So that's the first thing. For now, more specifically for real estate, that's some of the best books.
That's my favorite. I use that one all the time. That was one of my favorites. Yeah.
It's great because think about it. They're actually studying. So as a scientist, I really like this one because they're studying people that are successful. So if it worked for those people, why would you not take the same strategy that they use?
Exactly. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just do what they're doing.
No, do not reinvent the wheel in real estate because people have been successful. 90% of the millionaire, right, did it through real estate. It's very well established. You just follow the recipe, basically, right? So for more specific one, I like the bigger pocket books. This one, Managing Rental Property. This one, if you want to be a property manager. I read this book and I said, yeah, I do not want to be a property manager.
That's what it's like. I haven't read that book, but I don't want to be a property manager either. So,
and once you read it, you understand why. It's pretty cool. There's lots of steps involved. So this one also I like. Also bigger pocket, the book on rental property investing. This is also a more general book, you know, about rental. It's very good. Then once you want to do flips, I will recommend two books. The book on flipping houses, also bigger pocket. This one is great. Honestly, this one is really good for flips. And on top of that, the second one that comes with it is a book on estimating rehab costs, which is always the hardest part in flips. Honestly, it's not too difficult. The numbers, it's not rocket science. To be honest, it's like ARV and rehab cost. If you get those two numbers, you are successful.
Right.
So that's all it is. And then the next one I'd like to share is for multifamily. I have two of them. So the first one is how to. So that's the one from Roadcliffe. How to create cash flow.
I have not read that one yet. That looks like a good one.
Yeah, it's basically a very good overview of why you should do that business, actually, why you should go get into multifamily. And if you like more, because there's a little bit more number for this particular area, and so you can read this book, which from Steve Burgess, which goes more in detail into you know, cap rate, NOI, how you evaluate that, because the difference with commercial multifamily is the value is associated to the net operating income, which is really, it's just if you raise the rent or you decrease the expense, by definition, you raise the property value. So it's more of a business that you can have more control. It's not based on the comps that whoever is willing to pay for, basically. So it's more of a business, and you need to learn the numbers a little bit more. So, but to finish, I'd like to release some books that I love. Really,
are these those mindset books that you were talking to me about? Okay.
Yes. So this one, everybody should read it, regardless if they do real estate, whatever they do. Think and Grow Rich. And it's not just rich about the money, I would say. It's rich, really, the mindset of doing more than you think you can do. This is really,
which you're definitely doing. So I think we all need to read that book.
Yeah, this book is great. So this is another little book that I love.
Oh, I love that one. That one's one of my favorites.
The one thing, just always, because sometimes when you start to do too many things, remember that the focus is power. So this little book is great. It will tell you really that you need to focus on the most important stuff.
Yep. And so in the one thing is you do that one thing for 66 days in a row, and then you build a habit. And so then the concept is then you pick one thing, do it for 66 days. And that's how you just build on it.
I can tell that you like this book as well.
Yeah, I do. It is. It's one of my favorites. I've gone to a couple seminars on that book even.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking, I'm always, I like to almost tell, okay, you should read that book to anybody that I come across. And the first one I always say, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that's to begin. And after, if you want to be serious, the one thing is going to be a good one. And the one that I came across just recently that I'm still working on is
That's interesting.
This is just more even for your life in general. So if you want to really go change your life, so to speak, the monk who sold his Ferrari, it's about also the law of attraction. Read about that. Read about the law of attraction. You will be amazed. I can answer you.
That's interesting. I think I definitely want to put that one on my to-do list.
It's amazing, and I have way more. Those are just the one I picked for you. You have to go through so many books just to find the one that connects, that you relate with. That is important. And two miscellaneous one, because I also, as I mentioned, I was using some financing. So some of the money that I used to invest is I took a HELOC on my primary residence. So that's I mean, the equity is just there. You don't use it in make your money, your equity in your house work. I mean, the HELOC is an excellent way to get access to money to do investment, in my opinion, at least. Another one that I use is a solo 401k. I open a solo 401k that you can direct your money, your retirement money, the way you want, and that's what I did. So this is a very important. It's like a self-directed way of investing in something else than stock and bonds, which you think that's the only thing you can do. But no, there's so much more you can invest in with your retirement money. So look at, and that's why I would like to share this book. Self-directed IRA handbook. It's great. It really opens your mind about what you can do with your retirement money, and not just stock it in the stock, put it in the stock market. And just the last one is note investing. If you want to become the bank, promissory notes, and this is from Dave Van Horn. It's a good book to if you are interested in passive income. And notes is great. So.
So for financing, sorry, I got my dog in the background.
That's life.
This is what we do here. So for financing, you're using HELOC and self-directed IRAs, and then now you're getting into promissory notes. Are there any other financing that you do?
Yes, I use private money lenders, and that's another thing. That's really you come across those folks. The more you go outside, I'm part of REHAB, INREA. Those networking again is really important, because you're gonna come across people that will help along the way, using other people money and leveraging as much as you can. It's important to go faster. I would say it's scary, I understand, but this is a way to grow, and I think that it's essential to leverage people, the money of other people, basically.
So it sounds like we're probably going to have to do another one of these interviews and just talk about how to leverage and how to get more financing. So we'll have to have you back sometime to talk about that. So
I would be happy to do so.
All right. Any last words that you'd like to leave with us?
Again, really, I would say real estate, again, it's not only about real estate, it's about getting outside your comfort zone and growing as a person. I feel like I grew a lot. You get a little bit less fearful of doing stuff that you don't think you could do. And that's the bottom line. One night, I'll tell you this little story. One night I woke up in the middle of the night. I was not good, I was not feeling good. There were too many things going on. So I went down and I wrote down all my priorities in my life, not just real estate, priorities. So I put this first, second. And then I realized that actually investing real estate and all that money generating activities, they were pretty low compared to growing myself, my family, my friends, And that's super important, I feel like, because every day you're doing so many things. Sometimes you put more time in an activity that is linked to a priority that is low. So now I filter it that way. I say, no, I will first spend the time with the people or my own growth before doing anything else. And I
Yeah,
think
that's good. That's really good.
because life is more important, you know. And I'll be honest with you, now I even appreciate what I have more. Think about it. I was like having already a nice life and I was not really appreciating it because you always want something more, you know. But going through that, going through those books, now I appreciate more the little stuff of life. And I think that is more important than just even being a successful real estate investor.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Are you interested in sharing your contact information, or would you like them to just contact me and I'll share that if they're interested?
How do you think I should put that in a chat? You mean in the chat? Or
You can do that, or if you can share your screen really quick.
I will actually type it in my email. If anybody wants to have any discussion, I'm always so happy to talk about real estate because at work, I cannot talk about that with many folks, right? So each time I find somebody that is willing to talk about it, I'm happy. So I just share my email address, jkister79@gmail.com. And whoever, and if they cannot access you, please.
Or just contact me and I'll get your information to them. So very interesting discussion going today. I appreciate so much you taking the time and sharing, and I feel like we almost have to split this up into 2 or 3 different sessions, you know, so to get everything, and especially the books. I love learning. I want to start a book club with my group of investors, so that's something that's on the radar pretty soon, and we just hope to watch you do more deals, and just looking forward to see what you've got in your future. So thanks so much for taking the time today.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you inviting me in this podcast.
Thanks.